Rain. It's the only lullaby that I trust. It drums against my window in unceasing waves, a brown noise that keeps the city's sharper edges at bay. I'm Tom, 33. I'm a scientist. I'm a professional rat wrangler. And if you ask my mother, a spectacular waste of a Harvard education. My job? Well, I study how a certain miracle drug, I can't tell you the name unless you want a legal team at your door by sunrise, but it rots away the inside of the bodies of lab rats. The work is tedious and the ethics are very questionable at best, but the pay is just enough to keep me loaded with cheap wine and blackout curtains for the hangovers. I'm snarky by default, and you could blame my mother for this, but it keeps me sane, or at least it used to. Sanity, I used to think I had a lock on it. Hell, I think everybody does. But what really is sane? Is working a 45-hour-a-week job sane? Is having kids sane? What about vacationing at a beach resort in the summer? Well, I guess that all sounds pretty sane, and I used to think the same until that first night. You see, that night the rain was rhythmic and purposeful, a syncopation that felt like I was listening to code. I'd lay in bed, half buried under a scratchy wool blanket, staring at the ceiling fan. The shadows flickered and spun around, and I told myself it was just exhaustion. But the whispers started, tiny, needling voices threading through the downpour. They didn't say anything at first, just syllables like static. I slowly pressed my pillow over my head, but of course it didn't help. And if it did help, the story would be really short. It happened again the next night, and then the next. It was always worse after late shifts in the lab, after hours spent squinting at data sets and half-dissolved rodents. My eyes hurt so bad that I wanted to tear them out of my head. My mind ached, and I started to wonder if the rats were getting to me, or if the drug itself was leaking out of their cages, seeping into the air and crawling into my skin or up into my nostrils. Then, during a thunderstorm that rattled the windows like Hurricane Katrina, I woke up, not just out of a deep sleep, but out of the world of our reality as we know it. Or I guess I don't know it. Reality is different for everyone. It was like I stepped sideways into a reality that had been there all along, hiding in plain sight. Everything was sharper, more real than real, so pervasive and straining to my mind. I could see the veins in my own eyelids, blue rivers branching and flowing. The rain outside looked like threads of glass. Each drop was distinct. They're falling in slow motion. The whispers resolved into words, and I completely understood them. They were talking about me, about what I was, what I wasn't, and what I would never be. In that moment, I knew everything. I saw through every lie I'd ever tell myself, every illusion society had built around me. The world was a machine grinding on, oblivious to the suffering inside its gears. My mind was a locked box, and I'd found the key. For a few minutes, maybe an hour even, time didn't mean much. I was hyper-sane. That's what I would call it anyway. It's not a diagnosis you'll find in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. It's what happens when you see too much, when you understand very deeply and can't look away because it's so influential and incredible, quite honestly. But then it ended. The rain returned to normal, the whispers faded, and I was dumped back into my body like a pilot waking up in a nose-diving plane. I staggered out of my bed, flipped on the lights, and stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. My eyes looked the same. My face was still mine, smirking, skeptical, but yet very tired. But something inside me had changed, and I'd no idea if it would ever change back. Since then, hypersanity comes and goes like a blackout. Sometimes I could feel it lurking, a pressure behind my eyes, or a sense that the world is about to peel open and show me what's underneath. Other times I go for days without a hint of it, just a low-grade paranoia, a suspicion that I'm being watched by something that isn't quite human, or maybe not even there at all. The lab doesn't help. The rats seem to be watching me, their little black eyes bright and intelligent. And when the hypersanity hits, I could actually see them for what they really are. Prisoners, yes, but also witnesses. They know things I'll never understand, and their suffering is a kind of a secret language, and for a while, I could sometimes translate it. I try to keep it together. I crack jokes with my coworkers, I fire off sarcastic emails. I'm pretending I'm just another cog in the machine. But at night when the rain returns and the whispers start again, I know the truth. I'm not sane anymore. Not in the way that it matters. I'm something else, and I don't know how much longer I could pretend otherwise. I show up to work the next morning completely soaked through the bone. The sky a low cold front over the city. My umbrella gave up 2 blocks from the lab. The receptionist, Carla, raises an eyebrow as I drip my way across the squeaky linoleum. "Rough night?" she asks. "You know me. I only sleep when I'm dead," I mutter. It's a tired line, but she laughs anyway, probably out of pity. Or maybe she's just glad that she doesn't have my job. The lab is colder than usual, an AC chill that seeps into your bones. The fucking HVAC doesn't know when to stop. Rows of cages line the walls, each holding a rat with a number, a dose, and a fate. My research is simple on paper. Track how quickly the company's new drug breaks down in rodent bodies, jot down side effects, and try not to get attached. It's easy, right? Well, not so easy for the rats. I slide into my scrubs and I start the morning rounds. My assistant, Greg, is already elbow deep in paperwork, headphones in, bobbing his head to some god-awful 80s playlist. "Morning, Tom. Man, you look like hell." "That's just my face, Greg." He snickers, eyes never leaving his spreadsheet. We work in silence, the only sounds of scurrying of the rats and the hum of the ventilation. I check the dosing logs and I scan the rats for signs of distress and try not to think about last night. But midway through the routine, a rat in cage B17 starts gnawing at the bars, hard enough to chip a tooth. I kneel down, staring into its eyes, and for a split second, I see something. Recognition, accusation, hell, maybe even pity. And the world tilts for me. I hear a voice, harsh and sibilant, right in my ear. "You're not supposed to be here." I jerk back so hard I almost knock over the cage. Greg glances over his monitor, frowning. "You good, man?" "Yeah, I just startled by the rat, that's all. I think the guy's got a death wish." He shrugs, returns to his data. I stare at B17 with my heart pounding in my chest. The whisper felt real. Close, even. I rub my temples, trying to grind the memory away. The rest of the day is a blur. Numbers, vials, the endless monotony of routine. I keep catching glimpses of something in the corner of my vision. A flicker of motion, a shadow that doesn't really belong in such a brightly lit room. Every thunderclap from outside rattles the glassware, echoing in my skull. The whispers return when I blink too long, murmurs in a language only I seem to remember somehow. Lunch is a limp sandwich in the break room, 2 pieces of bologna, and a single leaf of lettuce with spicy brown mustard. Greg tries to talk about his fantasy football league. I nod, I make a couple of jokes and pretending that I'm listening. But I'm not. You see, I'm just not that into sports. And inside, I'm screaming. The room feels small and the lights are like bleach on my eyes. I excuse myself and go splash water onto my face. And as I walk into the bathroom, the mirror catches me off guard. My reflection's eyes are extremely sharp, as if some smarter version of me is trapped on the other side, waiting for its chance. By the time I clock out, the rain has turned into a full-blown storm. I walk home hunched over my useless umbrella, each footstep splashing in cold, oily puddles. The city lights blur and smear neon, bleeding into the gutters. My head throbs, and every sound is amplified. The whispers start up again as I unlock my apartment door. Louder this time, words tumbling over each other, crowding into my ears. You see too much. They know. You know. You know. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. I slam the door, breathing hard. My apartment is dark, the only light from the street lamps outside, fractured by raindrops on the glass. I don't turn on the lights. I just stand there, listening to the storm and the voices, waiting for the world to snap back into place. But it doesn't. I somehow make it to bed with my shoes still on. My clothes are damp and clinging to my skin. The ceiling spins above me and I close my eyes, but there's no way sleep will come. The whispers are insistent, you know, almost urgent, as if they're trying to warn me of something. You see, when the hypersanity comes, it's sudden. It's almost like a lurch or a tearing of reality, almost like being yanked out of my own mind. Then the room explodes with every detail, every crack in the ceiling and walls, every imperfection in the paint on my dresser, the faint smell of everything around me, and including me. I see connections and patterns and meaning in everything. The dripping faucet is telling me stories of where the water came from and how it was formed. The thunder is a signal, a warning from something that humans can't seem to grasp because it is an alarm call from an all-encompassing dust cloud from another galaxy, sending static electricity through space and time, telling us that it is slowly but ever encroaching, and that if there is any intelligent life out there to move out of its way, or it will devour us. I understand for a moment the true structure of things. The rats, the drugs, my own life, all the pieces of the puzzle I never wanted to solve. The company is hiding something monstrous, I feel. My research is just a cover, a way to keep the truth buried. I sit up, sweating and shaking. The whispers slowly fade away, leaving the constant hum of the rain smacking the window. My mind snaps back, raw and aching, and I stare at my hands, half expecting to see blood. Shit, it's almost dawn. I know this isn't over. The sunrise slowly peeks its sickly yellow smear behind slate clouds, and I stumble through my morning routine. Teeth, coffee, a half-hearted attempt at shaving. My hands keep shaking though, and I drop the razor, I nick my jaw, and I curse under my breath. Fuck. The face in the mirror looks older than yesterday. My eyes are ringed with purple. By the time I make it into work, the storm is still raging. The glass doors shudder with every gust. Carla doesn't even say hello, just slides a stack of HR paperwork my way. "Compliance audit," she says. Her voice is flat, her eyes flickering to the security cameras overhead. "Wonderful," I say. "That's just what I needed to brighten my day, Carla. Maybe I'll get lucky, and the building will flood." She doesn't laugh, though. Maybe she's heard the whispers, too. The lab that day is quieter than usual. Most of the staff are late or calling in sick, citing the weather. It's just me, Greg, and the new guy, Dr. Laird, one of the company's rising stars sent to optimize our workflows. He's 30 maybe, with a 2-white lab coat and a handshake like a vice. "Tom, right? Heard you're our point man on the degradation studies." "That's me. I'm the king of dead rats." I flash my best fake smile. "And I heard you're here to revolutionize the process, or just admire our collection of animal misery." He doesn't blink. "Both, ideally." I lead him through the protocols, showing him the charts, the freezer full of samples, the logbooks thick with data. He nods a lot, make notes on a pristine tablet, and asks questions that are just a shade too pointed. And I feel somewhat exposed, like he's dissecting me instead of the rats. He lingers at B17, the cage from yesterday. The rat is curled in the corner, breathing shallow and hard. Laird leans close, peering in. "This one's on its way out. Any anomalies you've noticed?" "Just the usual," I say. My voice sounds strange and hollow. "They all die eventually, Laird." He glances at me, his eyes sharpening. "Well, everything dies, Tom. But the question is how and why." His words echo into my mind, strangely resonant, and for a moment it's like the thunder outside syncs up with my pulse. Lunch is another non-event. Greg is gone. Laird has retreated to the admin offices. I eat alone in the break room, with the lights off, listening to the storm. I pull out my notebook and start scribbling, trying to map the patterns I keep in the data. Spikes, troughs, these weird regularities that nobody else seems to notice. And the more I write, the less sense that it makes. The numbers blur together. They rearrange themselves into messages that I can't quite decipher. Then the lights flicker, and a low hum vibrates throughout the building. The kind of sound you feel in your teeth. I look up, half expecting the shadows in the corners to start moving. The whispers are back, sliding over my skin like oily suntan lotion. "They see you. Digging. Your loose end. Stop. Digging. Stop. Your loose end. Digging. Stop. Your loose end. Stop. Digging. I grip the edge of the table until my knuckles ache and are turning pure white. The whispers dissolve into static, replaced by the drone of the air conditioner. I ditch the rest of my lunch and head back to the lab. The rats are agitated, scurrying in circles, their little claws clattering against the wire mesh. B17 is dead, still and silent with its eyes wide open. And I sat there and I stared at that tiny body, a prickle of dread in my gut, and for a moment, I swear I could see its tiny little lips move, mouthing a word that I can almost hear. Gregory turns, pale and sweating. "You okay, man? You look like you saw a ghost." Fuck me, Greg, I'm just tired. I toss my gloves into the biohazard bin. Let's wrap this up. I need some air. I sign out early. The rain has slackened, but the sky stays bruised and heavy. I walk home with my head down, counting the cracks in the sidewalk, trying to ignore the sense that I'm being followed. Back in my apartment, I collapsed onto the couch. The whispers are quieter now, but they never leave completely. I turn on the TV, hoping for a distraction, but every channel is static or endless news about the storm. I stare at the flickering screen, mind buzzing, waiting for the next wave of hypersanity to hit. It's coming. I could feel it building, the pressure mounting behind my eyes. The storm outside is nothing compared to the one inside of my skull. I close my eyes and I pray for silence, but it doesn't come. I drift in and out, snared by half-dreams and static. The whispers had learned my name, and they say it softly, as if tasting it. Tom, 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 Tom. Tom. Every thunderclap outside jolts me awake. My heart's pounding, sweat slick on my back, and I can't tell if it's the storm or the thing inside me that's louder. When I finally drag myself out of bed, it's mid-morning. I'm late to work, but I just don't care. The company can wait. The city is washed out, everything is smeared in gray. I walk to work under a sky that is cloud-filled, and every car that passes looks like it's moving underwater. And in a way, it is. Carla's not there today. The lobby is empty except for a security guard that I'd never seen before. His face is a blank slate. He doesn't even meet my eye. I badge in, the doors hissing shut behind me like a vault. There's a tension in the lab, a sense that something's been moved just out of place. The rats are dead silent, pressed into the corners of their cages. Greg is nowhere to be seen. Dr. Lard is in the office, hunched over his tablet, his eyes flicking back and forth like he can't understand what he's reading. He looks up. Tom, can I have a word with you, please? I brace myself. Shit. He gestures to the chair across from him. I sit, pretending I'm not scanning for exits. The overhead lights flicker in a pattern that kind of feels deliberate. Lard leans forward, his voice really soft. Your reports? They're thorough, almost too thorough. You see a lot of things people miss, don't you? I smirk. It's my default defense. Well, Lard, that's why you pay me the big bucks. He doesn't seem to smile. Tom, I'm going to be honest with you. You've noticed the anomalies in the data. The degradation curve. The way the rats' behaviors change before they die. I shrug. Well, that's the job, Lard, isn't it? I call it like I see it. He steeples his fingers together, as if he thinks he's in control. Well, what do you think is happening? I hesitate. If I say what I really think, he'll call HR, or worse. But there's something in his expression. The way his eyes slightly glitter, the way he's leaning into me, telling me that he already knows. Well, I think the drug does more than it's supposed to, if I'm being honest here, Doctor. I say carefully and respectfully. I think it's affecting their brains. But I think it might be a little bit more than that. He nods, almost satisfied. You're not wrong, but you're not right either, Tom. The thunder shakes the windows. I jump a little out of my seat, but Lard doesn't even blink. He lowers his voice. Tom, you ever feel like you're being watched? I laugh. Only by you, Doctor. He leans back, his eyes never leaving mine, and they narrow into sheer pinprick points. You should be careful, Tom. People who see too much tend to disappear. The room feels colder now since he said that. The whispers surge in my mind. It's a wave of hissing voices in the back of my skull. Get out. Get out now. Get out. I stand up fast, chair scraping the tile. Excuse me, doctor. I just need a fresh breath of air. He nods, his expression unreadable. Well, of course. I stumble into the hallway, breathing hard. My vision swims. Every shadow looks alive. Every reflection is twisting, and the world is bending around me. In the break room, I find Greg hunched over his phone, his face completely pale. Dude, you look like hell, he says. Right back at you, buddy. He tries to laugh, but it comes out wrong. Hey, Tom, you ever get the feeling that this place is a little, I don't know, off? I look at him. I really look. His pupils are blown out wide, and his hands are slightly trembling. And I think he's hearing them too, or something like them. Yeah, I do, Greg, I say quietly. I sure as hell do. He leans in, his voice barely above a whisper. Hey, Tom, you ever see anything in the data that wasn't supposed to be there? And I nod. He exhales relief and terror. Oh, thank God. I thought I was losing it, Tom. I think we both are, I tell him. I don't know if it's the job or not, but something's going on here. The rain starts up again harder than before. The lights flicker and hum, and the world feels thin and fragile. I wonder if I could just push through, slip sideways into that other state of mind, the one where everything makes sense for a moment before it all collapses into nothing again. The day drags on, and each minute is heavier than the last. The rats are restless and their eyes are bright. I catch my reflection in the glass of the incubator, and for a moment, I don't recognize the man staring back at me. And by quitting time, the storm is a living being. I leave the lab with Greg, both of us hunched against the rain and the wind. We're both silent except for the sound of our footsteps and the distant roll of thunder. He peers at me with his eyes haunted. Hey, if you figure it out, he says as he walks away, you let me know. I nod, but I already know the truth. Some things can't be figured out. Some things just are. I walk home in the rain. The city is a maze of wet concrete and neon. The whispers are following me, curling around my ears. I unlock my door, I step inside, and I let the darkness soak me in. Tonight, I won't sleep. Tonight, I'm going to listen. The rain never really stops. It's constant. It's a wet curtain pressing against my windows, muting the city lights to a sickly blur. I sit in bed with the TV on mute, the screen flickering shadows across my walls and me. I try to distract myself with mindless scrolling, but every headline feels like a message. Every news anchor's eyes dart. Paranoia. My old friend sidling right up beside me. When I finally drift off, it's not into sleep, but it's in a different kind of awareness. Sometimes the voices I almost recognize. My mother, a professor from years ago, even my own voice mocking. Go back. You left something undone. Go back. You left something undone.
You're not safe here.
I wake with a gasp, my heart hammering, and for a second I'm sure there's someone in the room with me. The storm outside cracks and thunder rattles the glass again. I get up and I pace around. My mind itches with the urge to do something, to find answers, to open every closed door in the lab, and to see what's squirming underneath it all. At dawn, I text Greg, "Meet me early, but don't tell anyone." He replies with one word, "Okay." I barely remember the walk to the lab, just the slap of rain on my face and the taste of metal in the air. Greg is already there, huddled in the far corner by the supply closet, his eyes ringed with exhaustion. We don't talk much as we navigate the empty corridors. The building feels abandoned, every noise amplified by the storm. We make it to the archive room, the place where old files go to die. I punch in the code, with my hands shaking on the keypad. Inside is the stink of mildew and paper. We dig through folders, searching for anything on the drug that we're using. Old trial reports, memos, notes from the higher-ups. We're really not supposed to be here. But Greg finds a dusty box labeled Pilot Program, Subject Logs. His hands tremble as he passes it to me. The files are all clinical and sanitized, but the numbers jump out at me. Animals dying faster than they should, behavioral changes that don't match the official narrative, references to unexpected neurological phenomena, and in the margins of the pages, someone scrawled notes. Pattern, ? Monitor for auditory changes. Subjects report whispering pre-mortem. I stare at Greg. They fucking knew. He nods, swallowing. They covered it up, didn't they, Tom? A crash of thunder shakes the shelves. The whispers roar in my head so loud I almost drop the file. I press my palm to my temples, willing them to stop. Greg grabs my shoulder with his eyes wild. Tom, are you? I'm fine, I snap with my teeth clenched. We need to get copies, Greg. Everything before they... And then the door to the archive creaks. We freeze. Someone's in the hall. I shove the files into my bag. My heart is pounding so hard in my chest. Greg whispers, "We need to go." We slip out the back, ducking into the maintenance stairs. On the landing, I double over. My breathing is ragged. The hypersanity hits me again hard. The world sharpens around me, every detail lit up in excruciating clarity. I could see the sweat on Greg's forehead, the trembling in his hands, the way the light buzzes in the ceiling fixture. The whispers become a single voice, urgent and clear. Run. We bolt out the side door into the rain, and I don't look back. I could feel the company's eyes upon us. We don't stop until we're blocks away, soaked to the bone, with our lungs burning. Greg slumps against the wall, clutching his knees. "What now, Tom?" he asks through the rain. I stare at the files in my bag. The truth is heavy and radioactive almost. We read, Greg. We figure out what they're hiding, and then... The whispers are waiting, just beneath the surface of it all. And then we decide if we want to survive. The storm rages on, relentless. The rain comes down in sheets, banging on the windows with manic insistence now. My apartment is a cave, lit only by the jaundiced glow of a single desk lamp. Greg sits across from me, his knees bouncing, wringing water from his sleeves. The files we stole are fanned out across my coffee table, and every so often, a lightning flash turns the room into a stark surgical white. I'm not sure for how long we've been reading. The words on the pages blur and swim, but I push through it. My hands are steady, my mind locked on a single task, and the whispers are much louder tonight, but they don't frighten me. Instead, they guide my eyes, telling me where to look. This is hypersanity at full volume, the feeling that every piece fits, that every detail is heavy with meaning. I flip through a stack of documents and my brain burning with connections. Their charts, autopsy reports, internal memos, and dozens of behavioral pages. Beneath the official language, I could see the pattern emerging. It's in the numbers, the timing of the deaths, the sequence of the symptoms, the notes about auditory phenomena. The rats always start hearing things before they die. The drug triggers it, but only in certain doses. I find a page that stops me cold, though. It's a scan of a handwritten note, nearly illegible, tucked between two polished reports. The handwriting is frantic and slanted. This is what it says. If subject survives auditory stage, monitor for phase shift. Possible cognitive reorganization. The symptoms: hyper-awareness, acute paranoia, sense of being watched, compulsion to seek patterns, auditory hallucinations escalate. Human trials are not authorized. Do not escalate to phase number 3. I read it aloud and Greg's eyes widen. This is what's happening to you, Tom, isn't it? His voice is almost a whisper. I nod once, not trusting myself to speak. The hypersanity comes on harder. The room starts to warp at the edges. The lamp's glow is a halo. Every sound is magnified, the tick of the clock, Greg's shallow breathing, the wet hiss of the storm. I could see the connections like neon threads weaving through the data. The drug just doesn't degrade in the body. It changes the brain. It unlocks something. Heightened perception, yes, but at a very terrible cost. My own research logs flickered my memory. The rats that lasted the longest always showed the most dramatic changes. They became hypervigilant, obsessively drawn to things that we couldn't see. Some of them even started mimicking noises. Clicks, squeaks, the sound of human voice, the shuffle of shoes on the floor. They'd stare at me through the bars, with their eyes filled with something I'd never seen before. Recognition and desperation. I turned to Greg, my own voice sounding foreign to my ears. It's just not hallucinations, Greg. The drug shatters the normal boundaries of perception. It rips open the mind. For a while, you see everything. You should never, ever see everything, Greg. Greg shudders, his lips trembling before me. And then, I look down at my hands, and then it breaks you, or it kills you. A bolt of lightning splits the sky so bright the whole room glows, and in that instant, I see everything with terrifying clarity. The company knew. They saw the effects in the animal trials. They buried the data, scrubbed the reports, and threatened anyone who got too close. The drug wasn't meant to heal. It was meant to control and to reshape the mind. But it wasn't going their way. I feel my heart hammering and my breath coming fast and shallow. I'm not sure if I'm speaking or just thinking, but the words spill out. They're going to roll this out anyway, Greg. Human trials are already happening somewhere off the books. We're not the first to hear the whispers. Greg goes pale. We have to go public. We have to stop him somehow, Tom. I nod, but the world is spinning. The hypersanity is fading, leaving me drained, hollow, and I can feel my mind starting to go numb again. I clutch the handwritten note. The rain pounds even harder and the thunder rolls overhead like the footsteps of something vast. It's not over, it's just the beginning. And I feel as though the storm inside of me is starting to awaken. The night swallows the city whole. My living room is cluttered with evidence, files, notes, some of my own frantic scribbling. Greg hovers by the window, peering through the sheets of water as if expecting headlights to appear. And I know the feeling. Every sound from the street sets my nerves on edge. "We just can't drop this on social media, Tom," Greg says. "No one would believe it. They'll bury it, and us." He's right. The company's too powerful and too practiced at making inconvenient things disappear, but I'm done being afraid. The hypersanity still lingers as a low voltage within my own veins, and I see the way forward as if it's already happened, clarity and dread racing neck to neck. "We need a reporter," I say quietly to Greg. "Someone who's not afraid to burn bridges. Someone with a reason to hate them." Greg nods, his jaws tight. "I know a guy, a science writer. He's been trying to nail them for years. But they always shut him out. I think if we give him these files, he'll run with it." I grab my phone and pass it to Greg. "Call him." Greg paces as he dials. I start photographing every page, every note, making digital copies in case they find us before the story gets out. The whispers are back, but they're a little different now. They're urgent and almost encouraging, and I could hear my own voice among them, pushing me forward to go through with this. Greg finishes his call, voice low and tense. "He's gonna meet us tonight. He said to come alone. He doesn't trust anyone." I stuff the originals into the battered backpack. Greg looks at me, his eyes wide with fear and something like hope. "You sure about this, Tom?" I zip the bag shut. "No, but I don't think we have a choice. This can't get out." We slip out into the storm, moving fast, heads down. The city feels deserted. The streets are swallowed by rain. Every car that passes makes my skin crawl, and I keep seeing faces behind the glass. We reach the meeting spot. It's a grimy diner at the edge of downtown, the kind of place that's open all night, but that's never busy. A single car idles in the lot, its headlights off. Greg's contact sits in the corner booth, face hidden by a hood, fingers drumming on the cracked formica. He looks up as we enter. His eyes are sharp and hungry, staring right through us. "You got something?" I slide into the booth with Greg beside me. I set the backpack on the table and start pulling out the files. The reporter's hands shake as he flips through the documents, his mouth set in a grim line. "Holy shit. This is big," he whispers. "You know what they'll do? If they find out that you gave this to me? They'll come after you for this. Are you sure this is what you want to do?" I meet his gaze. "Let them. Just promise me you'll run the story. I mean everything. Names, dates, the whole cover-up, everything. People need to know this." He nods, his eyes burning with a purpose now. "I'll make sure they do." We leave him with the files, and we step back into the storm. Greg grabs my arm. His voice is trembling. "What if they find us?" I shake my head. "Greg, we keep moving. We don't go home. We'll probably have to stay together, and if the whispers get worse, you get out. Don't wait for me." Lightning forks across the sky, thunder rattling the diner windows, and in a brief glimpse of time I can almost hear the company's lawyers sharpening their knives, the silent machinery of power grinding into motion. But I'm not afraid. Not anymore. The hypersanity taught me how everything connects, how the truth can cut deeper than any lie. We disappear into the rain, two ghosts in a city full of secrets, and somewhere behind us, a story is being written, one that might tear the company apart. The story breaks about 2 days later. I see it on my phone first, a headline screaming across every news feed. Whistleblowers expose pharma giants' dangerous drug trials. Pictures of files, grainy shots of the lab, quotes from analysts and ethicists who'd never return my calls when I still worked there. The reporter did his job. He told everything, showed everything, and the fallout was immediate. Executives resign, the company's stock plummets. Anonymous threats fill my inbox. My face is on TV, blurred, but I know it's me. Greg's contact has gone underground, and so have we. We sleep in motels, always paying cash, always checking the locks twice. Greg jumps at every noise. I double-check our escape routes before I let myself close my eyes, but the world keeps turning. The rain for once slows to a drizzle, and the city breathes again. Inside me, the storm is worse than ever, though. You see, the hypersanity doesn't leave. It waits. When I closed my eyes, I could see the connections everywhere. Webs of meaning, secrets in the shadows, and faces in every knot of wood and whirl of smoke. Sometimes the whispers are gentle. Hell, they're almost comforting. But at other times, they're a hurricane, howling with every failure and every secret I should have left buried, that I never wanted to know in the first place. One night, Greg finds me pacing in the tiny motel room, muttering to myself. "Tom," he says, his voice is tight, "you're not sleeping. I don't even know if you're here anymore. I stop, and I force myself to look at him. The rational part of me is battered but somewhat present. It claws its way to the surface. I know what's happening. I know how close I am to being lost for good. I sit down, my head in my hands. Greg, I see too much. I know too much. The drug didn't just change the rats, Greg. It changed me. My mind is stuck in overdrive. I don't even know what normal is anymore." He crouches beside me. "You're not crazy, Tom. You blew the whistle. Hell, we did the right thing." I laugh. Maybe. Or maybe I just let the madness win. Greg grips my shoulders. "You're still you, dude. Don't let them take that." His words echo into my mind, and I cling to them. And that night I sit by the window and I watch the dark clouds break apart, the first starlight in weeks peeking through. I let the whispers come, but I don't let them drown me. And I remind myself over and over of who I am. A snarky, stubborn, a scientist to the end. The days pass slowly. Investigators call. Lawsuits are filed. The company is wounded, maybe even dying, but I know the machines won't stop for good. There will be another drug, another trial, and maybe because of what Greg and I did, somebody will pay more attention. Greg finally gets a job offer in another city. I tell him to take it. He deserves a life outside of thunder and fear. I watch him leave, and for a moment the world feels empty. But I stay anonymous. I take these odd jobs. I keep my head down, and I try to live one day at a time. The menial tasks help me keep my sanity, but the hypersanity never fully leaves me. There are days when the world splits open and I see everything. Way too much, all at once. But I've learned to ride it, to recognize when the storm is coming. I anchor myself with routines, with facts, with the small, stubborn hope I can outlast the storm inside of me. However, I know the end is coming soon. Because I saw it coming in the rats. And now I see it coming within me.